Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Today is August the 28th. It's a Thursday today. We just had NVDA earnings last night. You can see it basically opened flat. Overall markets didn't really do too much. NVIDIA only down 1.2%, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll take a look at NVIDIA here in a second. There is a potential earnings play in place before we go over the indices and the tech names. Good morning, everyone. What's up? We do have some red folder news here as well at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Good morning. What's up, Darth, Vic, True? What's up, Eileen, Vic, Monty? Good morning, Cinna, Andreas. What's up, underrated? Jen, Victor, 50, Luis, Quita. What's up, Candy? I am Robert, Sam, Fibio, Philip, Junie, Norwin, Sam, Yen. What's up, Charles, Ryan, Edison, Jeff, T? What's up, JT, Kells? Yeah. What's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. First things first, let's go on to the economic calendar. You can also go into NVIDIA earnings here as well. But basically, what we have coming into today is we have NVIDIA earnings, which we had yesterday. So the market is going to essentially digest that information. Now we also have some red folder news here as well, which is going to be prelim GDP, which is at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, along with unemployment. And then we have some orange folder news later into the day. And then tomorrow we have core PCE along with consumer sentiment. So as you can see here for the overall markets, what we have coming into today here for the overall indices, let's go over to some charts. So first things first here for the SPY and the Qs. As you can see here, if we're on the 15-minute time frame, the past few sessions, we've essentially been just consolidating all week. If we're marking out Friday's price action along with Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, you can see we're kind of just stuck inside this range coming to this week. We haven't really had a clear direction in the overall markets. What I wanted to see now for a push towards the upside for the Qs and the rest of the market is really now just going to be a break above your Friday's highs, right? A break and hold above your Friday's highs is going to be key for the SPY and the Qs if you want to see any sort of continuation towards the upside. So as you can see here for the Qs, we've been just kind of consolidating for the past few sessions. Now we just had NVIDIA earnings. You can see pretty big wick here. We ended up wicking all of yesterday's range. You can see from the top, came all the way back down towards the bottom, and now we're closer to the top of the range. So for the QQQ coming into today, if I turn back on the drawings, the key level that I have marked out for more upside is going to be this 574. So if we do want to potentially break towards the upside and hold, right, we have to break and hold above your 574 for a potential push up and towards this 575.50. So that's what we have for the Qs. If we go into the NQ chart, this one, as you can see right here as well, we have multiple touches. So we have multiple touches at this 23,640. What we like to see here for the overall NQ, right? Build up these higher lows. We like to see now the break above, maintain above your Friday's highs. And that's where we can see continuation above your 23,640 here on the higher time frames. If we can break above this level, there is a potential we can see push back up in towards your 23,760 and above here, which is going to be this 23,840. What we don't want to see happen is the pop kind of reject off this level and we come right back in between this range that we've have established. So that's what we have for the NQ along with the QQQ coming into today. It's going to be the break and hold back above your key levels. As for the ES, this one I do like for a move towards your all-time high. So let's go into the ES chart first. So as you can see right here, what we do have is your all-time highs or your previous all-time highs. Basically, you can see we now have multiple touches here on the ES. What we like to see now is really the break above, hold above this level for continuation towards the upside. If we zoom in just a little bit here, go into the lower time frames, You can see this one's a little bit more bullish here than the ES. We're above your Friday's highs, and now we're trying to use this level as a retest for continuation towards the upside. So coming into today, what I would like to see personally here for the ES is right the maintain above your 6492 for this continued push up and towards your all-time highs, or what another scenario that we could be looking for is the break above your all-time highs and hold. So we're either going to be looking for the retest for a push up in towards your all-time highs, or now it's going to be the break above your all-time highs hold for this continuation towards the upside. So that's what we have for the ES coming into today. This one looks fairly good for continuation. You can see all-time highs. Now you can see multiple touches. If you can break above all-time highs and hold, there's good chance we have right continuation towards the upside. So that's what we'll have marked out for the ES coming into today. We'll have your all-time highs marked out along with this 6492. As for the SPY chart, I have quite a few lines drawn here, but for the SPY, this is a very key level here, which is your Friday's highs. Similar thing, you can see we have multiple touches. 646.50 is your key level, and now what we also have marked out is basically your previous day highs, which in this case is now your all-time highs here on the SPY. So for the SPY coming into today, the key levels is your previous all-time highs, your 646.50. This is the key level. You can see buyers are trying to step in so far above this level. We like to see this continue push towards the upside, or you'd now like to see the break above your previous day highs hold for this continuation towards the upside and above. So that's what we have for the SPY coming into today, along with the Qs. As long as we maintain above key levels, or in this case for the Qs, get above your Friday's highs, we can expect some more continuation towards the upside along with the SPY in itself. All right, let's go on to some of the tech names that we have coming into today. Let's first go over NVIDIA. So NVIDIA had earnings last night, and you can see the overall market had a pretty big reaction. This is the news event essentially we've been waiting for all week, and we're only down 1%. So right off the bat, both sides are going to get crushed. It's basically going to open up fairly flat. The puts and the calls going to get crushed here, but the overall higher time frame is still very much intact. So if we're looking at this from a higher time frame perspective, we're about to open up basically exactly where we closed at, which is your previous day close, 180. This one to me, right, higher lows are still being built. You can see the flat top is still very much in play. What I would like to see is still the break above your all-time highs for a continuation towards the upside. So what we can have marked out coming into today is going to have a couple of things marked out. Number one, what we're going to have marked out is this 178.50. We could even refine this up in towards your previous day lows here. Let's actually do that. I like this a little bit better just because we have multiple touches over here. So 179 is going to be your key level. So right off the bat, what we're going to have is, right, both sides are going to get crushed for the IV. So the IV is going to cool off within the first really 15 to 30 minutes. What I would like to see is a potential earnings reversal. So right here, we can mark out your earnings high and we can mark out your earnings low. And right now you can see we're basically right in the middle. What I like to see is really just consolidation and a potential reversal back up and towards your previous day close for a big push back up and towards right 182 and potentially above, which is your 184. So we'll keep an eye out on NVIDIA coming into today, right? We're open to playing both sides here just because, right, it's not really a clear direction. You're only down about 1%, but of course the higher time frame is still bullish. But I'd much rather trade this back up and towards the upside because we have this gap fill now, plus we have your all-time highs in play. So we'll keep an eye out on an earnings reversal play here on NVIDIA coming into today. We just have to let the IV cool off for the first 10 to 15 minutes. But this is definitely on watch just because it had earnings. And I do expect some decent price action. If it doesn't move today, then it's definitely going to move in the coming days because we had earnings. So we'll keep an eye out for an after earnings play on NVIDIA. As for AMD, this one consolidating just a bit more here now. The past week hasn't really done too much on AMD. You can see if I just draw this kind of box here that we have 169 and this 162, a lot of consolidation in this general area. What we would like to see for continuation higher now is going to be the break above your 169 for continuation. So for AMD, until we can break your 169, I'll be a little bit more hands off. But if we can break above your 169 or now potentially break above your previous day highs, I'd like to see this push up and towards your 169 and above. As for Tesla, I'm still fairly bullish here on this ticker. So you can see nice continue push towards the upside. Tesla, the key levels that I have marked out is your 350 key psych. I also have this high back here as well, which is essentially your 345. So for Tesla here, what I'd like to see now is the reclaim back above your 349. So as you can see right here for Tesla key level, right? Monday's price action. Sorry, you have Monday, Tuesday, and then you have Wednesdays. What I'd like to see now is the reclaim back above your 349 for this push up in towards, right, your 353 here and above. So it's going to be the reclaim back above your previous day lows. Also, it would be your Mondays and Tuesdays highs here. So for Tesla, reclaim back above your 349 is in play for a pushback towards the upside. Also, another scenario, potential kind of pop and fade off this level is in play as well, but I'd much rather see the reclaim back above that 349. So that's what we have here on Tesla. As for a few other names, I do like Apple. This one's starting to push here as well, breaking back above key levels. So if we look at this from a higher time frame perspective, as you can see for Apple, we're now reclaiming back above key levels, being your 230.70. This is essentially the area that we broke down from originally. So now that we're back above this level, what we like to see here for Apple is it maintain above this 230.60, which is a very key level. Your previous day highs in a higher time frame key level, 230.60 hold, we can push back up in towards your pre-market highs here and above. If we break back underneath, then we're just going to come right back in between yesterday's range. So you like to see the hold of your 230.60s for continuation back towards the upside. As for the rest of the tickers, as you can see here for Meta, not really doing too much, just kind of around this 750 level, key level 750 along with this 740. As for some other names here for Google, a little bit more consolidation as well. I have quite a few levels drawn out, but for Google, the key level is still your previous all-time highs. What we like to see is it just maintain. We also had some news yesterday as well. So for Google, not too much to see. If you're just looking at this week's price action, right, you can kind of just draw this out. For most names, if you just draw your Monday's price action all the way to Wednesdays, you can see there's not really a clear direction on the overall market. I did this a little bit earlier here with the Qs, where I just drew up Monday's price action to today. Unless we can break out of this 574 for a continuation higher, I do expect it to be fairly choppy. If we just reverse right back in between this range that we have, it's just more mean reversions, which makes it a little bit more difficult. But if we can break above and hold, potentially we can see some trends back towards the upside. Similar here with SPY. As for Amazon, the key levels I have marked out coming into today is going to be your previous day highs. So your previous day highs is going to be key, which is your 230. If we do want to see any sort of continuation higher, right, break above your previous day highs, hold for this pushback towards the upside. And then for the other tickers, Microsoft, nice kind of bounce here. Key levels that we have on Microsoft now is just going to be your 509. This is the area that we broke down from. We have multiple touches. For Microsoft, I'd like to see the reclaim, right, hold back above your 509 for this push back up and towards your 514 here on the higher time frames. Alrighty, let me grab some water. All right, so I have a few lines drawn out here on the chart, but if you guys do have any tickers or any charts you'd like me to go over, you guys can now drop them in the chat. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop me a like and sub. Also, if you guys haven't joined the watch list, you guys can do so in the description below as well. So quickly go over my game plan once more. We do have some news at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is the prelim GDP. We'll see how that affects the overall market. We did have a pretty big news event, which is NVDA in the after hours. So I'll just go over my quick game plan. If it does change due to 8:30, then we'll go over once again. But basically today, the game plan is, right, we're waiting for the break above your 574 on the Qs. If you can break above your Friday's highs, hold, we can see continuation towards the upside. If we reject off this level, then we're just going to come right back in between kind of this range that we have established, which I don't really like. If you go into the SPY chart, similar kind of thing here. SPY is actually a little bit more bullish. So in this case, The SPY has been the leader towards the upside. So SPY key level is your Friday's high, as you can see so far, kind of maintaining above this high. But for the SPY, similar thing, above your Friday's highs, hold for this pushback towards the upside. So what's been happening the past week or so, ever since we had this drop originally, basically what we had was a little bit of a tech rotation. So that's why SPY's back at all-time highs where the QQQ is lagging. So in this case, that's not something we'd like to see if we're trying to trade the overall tech names back towards the upside, just because, right? SPY's the leader, then we have the QQQ, and then we have the tech names. Whereas what you really want to see is the QQQ leading the market or some tech name, and then SPY following along. So whenever this occurs, right, it just makes it harder for upside, especially on, right, the major indices and some of the tech names. So that's why the tech, basically we've just been consolidating. There hasn't really been any good tech moves in the past, I'd say, a couple days. Even last week we've had a couple moves, but primarily, right, just a lot more consolidation on the tech side, which is just lagging the overall markets. All right, let me go over some names here for the next around 12 minutes, and then we do have the prelim GDP, and then we'll go over my game plan once more, and then I'll get ready for market open. All right. See, is the IV still high? Yeah, the IV still going to be high just because, right, we just had earnings, but it'll cool off. As soon as market opens, it'll cool off because it's opening flat, right? The implied move was probably close to 5 to 7%. But you can see we're only down 1%, so both calls and puts are going to get crushed. The IV is going to cool off right off the bat. All right. As you can see here for Palantir, the key level on Palantir is your 162 along with your 156. So coming into yesterday, the key levels I have marked out 162, previous high that we created here on Tuesday, and then we actually had your Tuesday's lows. So for Palantir, you can see that we ended up essentially just rejecting off this high, coming all the way back down in towards the bottom of the range, which was your 156. So what I like to see here for Palantir is kind of the hold of your 156. If we can potentially hold this level, we can see this bounce back towards the upside, back in between yesterday's range. Really, that's kind of about it. If you can get underneath your previous day lows, potentially you can see a little bit more downside here. But Palantir and the rest of the tickers really just look like they're consolidating. If you just look at this week's price action, we've had some pretty big moves every single day, but really we've had no clear direction, and we're just in between its Friday's range that we had from last Friday. So not too much to say here on Palantir. We'd like to see more clear direction if the Qs can have a clear direction as well. But key levels, just mark out your previous day lows, 156 along with this 162. As for SoFi, this one's showing a little bit of relative weakness, but now this one's just coming back down for the retest of essentially the area that it broke out from. So on the higher time frames wise, this is basically the retest level that you like to see hold. You can see previous level of resistance. Now you like to see turn into support if you want to see any sort of continue push higher. So this is the exact key level here. This is where it bounced from on Monday. This is also your last week's key pivot high here as well. So for SoFi, you'd like to see the buyers step in off of this 2460 essentially. What you don't want to see happen, break underneath, show some weakness, because there's potential we can see a reversal here if we do break underneath their previous day lows and hold underneath that level. IWM. So yeah, for IWM, this one is also having a nice push higher here as well. So for IWM, you can see, at least for the indices wise, this one has room back up in towards your all-time highs. For IWM, you can see gap up. We end up having this nice gap and push towards the upside here last Friday. And now you can see this is one of the major indices that is having its next leg higher. So for IWM, right, nice hold of this 2150. And now you can see we end up holding this down close candle yesterday that I have marked out. And then another level we can have marked out now is going to be this high that we created here from last Friday. So you can mark this out, drag it over. So for IWM coming into today, as long as you can maintain above your previous day highs along with your 235.50, this can see a push back up and towards your pre-market highs here and above. So for IWM, this one looks good here on the higher time frames. The next key levels is really all going to be back up and towards your all-time highs. Other levels that we can have marked out, right, 237 And then we could also mark out here, which is your 239.45. So for IWM, these are your key levels towards the upside. Now you just like to see maintain above your Friday's highs if you want to see continuation. So 235.50 for a pushback towards the upside here on IWM. As for Hood, right, you can see a few of these names dropping here as the overall market is either consolidating or pushing higher. And that's a good sign that the market is slowing down, at least on the tech side as well, right? You can see the past kind of week here on Hood and some of these other growth names, right? Definitely slowing down just a little bit. And that's, right, a sign that at least on the higher time frames, right, we talked about that tech rotation. So for the Hood, based off the higher time frames, you can see key levels is just consolidating. If you're looking at this on the daily chart, just a lot more consolidation here the past 20 to 40 sessions. So nothing really has happened. You can see if we just mark out the past 20 to 40 sessions, just a lot more consolidation. We're just going to go from kind of range high to range low. But key levels here for Hood is now just going to be this 108. And then we also have now it's just going to be this 99, 100 key psych. We have this level of support here as well, which is your 104, but it's just going to go from right level to level. There's not going to be any really clear direction on this ticker, right? So key level 104, 108, and then you also have your 100 key psych. So that's what we have for Hood. Key levels coming into today are going to be those exact levels along with your previous day lows here as well. How do you set up your session indicators? That one just comes default. If you trade any of the tech names, you're going to have these session indicators. If you trade futures or Forex, it's not going to come with it. But I think there is an option, at least on the futures, for that on TradingView. All right, INTC. So as you can see here for INTC, Intel, right, this one's slowly gonna push back towards the upside. So this one has news that we had a few weeks ago. It's basing, I still like this one, right? Kind of holding up as you can see here. If we can now start to potentially break out here on Intel, I think we can have a really nice pushback towards the upside. But key levels that we can have marked out, kind of mark out this higher time frame downtrend. Now what I would like to see is really the break above your previous day highs, hold for continuation higher. We also have a major key level, which is really going to be this 2560. So if we turn back on the drawings here, 2560s is going to be key here for Intel, in my opinion, right? You have these higher lows being built. The best trade is going to occur, right? Either above your 25 or preferably above your 2560 for this push towards the upside. So you can keep an eye out on Intel above your previous day highs, but key level is going to be your, right, Monday's highs, which is your 2560. Okay. Let me scroll here. Let me scroll down here. A couple other names. Let's see. Some of you guys are talking about some Forex and gold. Let me go over gold real quick. So gold seems like it's potentially starting to break back out here on the higher time frames finally. Not quite out of the blue as of yet, but key level here for gold is going to be this 34.40. We are breaking back above a key pivot point. So for gold, we're starting to trend back towards the upside here on the 1 hour chart, along with the lower time frames here as well. So the levels that I have marked out now on gold is basically this key pivot high. So we have this key pivot high marked out. What I'd like to see now is primarily the break, right? Hold above this level. If you can maintain above this, really now it's going to be this 3400. We can see this push up and towards potentially your 3435. So that's what we have for gold. You also have this key pivot high as well that you have to be careful of. But now for gold, based off the 1 hour chart, I'd just like to see it, right, break above, hold for this continuation up and towards that 3435. All right. As for some other names that we have, Oscar, you can see I haven't marked this chart out here in a while, but we do have this pretty big gap back towards the upside from, I guess this wasn't from earnings, but what we like to see is if we can potentially fill this gap. If you can break back above, potential gap fill play is in play here, but first you're going to have to break above. Now it's going to be your previous day highs, and you can see multiple touches here as well. All right, I went over most of these tickers. Let's see. IBKR, yeah, this one's moving up nicely. IBKR just recently came off your all-time highs. Key level that we have marked out is your previous level of resistance. Now we can turn it into support. If you look at this, right, IBKR has been moving up very nicely. Key level now is your 59 key psych level. We like to see it maintain above this for continuation towards the upside. If we look at this from a 1 hour time frame perspective, you can see a really big pop here on Monday, but now you can see we're just kind of right back down. Key levels that we're going to have marked out is really just going to be this level here as well, which is your 62. So we can mark this out and drag this over. So 62, if we can reclaim back above this level, we can see this push back towards the upside. If we break underneath this level, then we're just going to come right back down in towards your 60 here and below. All right. Let me scroll down here. So we do have a few more minutes until prelim GDP. I see some people. Let's see this. Just did SoFi. Yes. Can I message your email? Yes, you can. Thanks for the breakdown. Let's see. Hood, Palantir. Yeah, went over most of those ones. I'll go over shop. So I'll go over a few more tickers and then we'll wait for the red folder news that we do have. So shop, right, gap up due to earnings. Now we're filling about 50% of the gap here. So for Shopify, if you do want to see a potential move back towards the upside now, what we like to see, if we actually just remove a few levels here, for Shopify, the key levels that I have marked out is basically the area that we broke down from, which is your 148. And then another level that we have marked out now here as well, which is your 144. So for Shopify, we like to see now it's going to be the reclaim back above your 144 for a push back up towards your 148. If we stay heavy now, which is basically going to be underneath your 130 and basically this 140 key level, then potentially we can see a little bit more downside here. So key levels on Shopify, you have your 140 and then you're going to have your 144. All right, let's see. Just rewind the video. Yeah, if usually I go over most of the charts. So if you guys at least on this side, if you go on the right hand side, these are basically the watch lists that I have. I go over majority of these tickers at the very start, and then I'll go over some other tickers that you guys mentioned in the chat. All right, if you guys do have, let's see, any questions, probably go over them for a few minutes, and then we do have prelim GDP. That's basically what we're waiting for here now, which is in about 40 seconds. Let's just quickly go over a scan here as well. MU, Hood. Yeah, so a lot of these ones are consolidating, especially the semis with with NVDA. There's nothing really that has like a higher time frame breakout. You can see a lot of these ones are just pulling back now. With the overall markets, TSM still relatively holding up, but the rest of the tickers, at least on the daily time frame, had a significant pullback now, with just the markets overall consolidating in itself, which is not really what you like to see. SoFi still looks good here on the higher time frames. Even Palantir is down now, so we'll see what happens moving forward. But you can definitely look at the markets and tell that there's less volume. Now for some news that we had. So, all right. Just waiting for the numbers here for the prelim GDP. Doesn't seem like the market's moving that much after that NVIDIA earnings that we had yesterday. But let's pull this back up. All right. So we just had the numbers come out for unemployment along with GDP. Actual forecasted about 3.3%. Forecasted was 3.1%. Unemployment, basically net change, break even. So as you can see right here, overall market having a very small reaction, but basically have unemployment unchanged and then prelim GDP a little bit higher. So for the overall markets, basically after yesterday's price action, right, NVIDIA was the main news driver. So this one, right, pretty big move already in the overnight session. Coming into today, very minimal reaction here for the both SPY and the Qs. So right now, Key levels that we have marked out still is going to be your previous all-time highs here on SPY. So the game plan is still very much intact. Key level today, if we just go into the 15-minute for the QQQ, is going to be the break and hold for continuation towards the upside. If we can have that hold above your 574, which is going to be key for the SPY here, the key now is going to be your previous day highs along with your Friday's high. So these are basically the only two levels that matter on the chart. Let me actually just get rid of that. And then for the Qs, right, it's your Friday's high. So for the SPY coming into today, right, the key level is going to be this 640, 640s. So this is your key level here. We also do have your previous day highs, and you can see multiple touches as well. If we have SPY, what we like to see is a maintain above your Friday's highs. If we can maintain above your Friday's highs, we can potentially see a push towards the upside. If we can get above your previous day highs, this also looks good towards the upside as well. What we don't want to see happen is consolidation, break underneath your last Friday's highs. This is just going to push price all the way back down in between its range that we have established yesterday. So I'm leaning towards the upside just because of the overall higher time frames or above your all-time highs, right? ES, similar thing. I like to see the push up in towards your all-time highs here as well, right? Just due to the fact that we are closer to your all-time highs on the SPY and the Qs. So for the ES, the key level that I have marked out is your last Friday's highs, your 6492, and then we also have your previous day highs as well. If we can get above this level, we can see continuation. So that's what we have here for all the major indices. And then for the for the NQ, it's going to be your last Friday's highs, 23,650. So that's the game plan, at least on the major indices coming into today. As for my top watch, I guess you can see NVIDIA is already pushing back up. So technically it's going to open up flat. I wouldn't really consider this an earnings reversal play now since we're about to open up where we closed off at. But we can still keep an eye out on NVIDIA, but it's basically going to open up very flat. IV, as I mentioned, it's going to be crushed both ways. So there's not really going to be a clear direction on NVIDIA coming into market open. We had this drop. Now we have this nice rally before market even opens, and we're about to come back up and towards your previous day close. The key levels that I have personally marked out on NVIDIA is really this 182. So this 182 is going to be key if you want to see, let's say NVIDIA pops right off the bat, or if it pops right off the bat, then we can be looking for an immediate potential opening drive up and towards your all-time highs and above. If we can get above this 182. If we just kind of consolidate, then we'll wait for the first kind of 10 to 15 minutes to play out and let the IV cool off. But if we can have a clear direction, maybe it consolidates, has this big push, then we could be looking for longs above your 182 for a potential move up and towards this earnings high and your all-time highs here on NVIDIA. So NVIDIA is going to be my top watch coming to market open. Just wait for the IV to cool off before you look for this name. As for Tesla, also very interested in this one as well. Above now, it's going to be your 350 reclaim for a pushback towards the upside. And then we also have a few other tickers. I do like Apple above your previous day highs, 230.60s for continuation. AMD, nice pop here as well. For AMD, we like to see it above your 168.50s if you want to see continuation towards the upside. This is the level where we rejected from earlier, but this is your key level here for AMD. And that is about it. So yeah, those are the main watches coming into today. It is going to be the semiconductors, especially NVIDIA, since we just had earnings. So I do expect this to be fairly volatile. We'll see if it does want to have a clear direction within the first 10 to 15 minutes. Just because it is fairly neutral, just based off of the earnings that we do have, just based off the charts. So we'll see how this opens. But yeah, those are the charts I'll be focusing on: Tesla, NVIDIA, along with Apple, and then potentially AMD if you can get above your 168.50. But yeah, that is going to be it for me today. I do see some more people typing here now. Just subscribed a couple weeks ago. Love what you do. Appreciate that. With Site DC News, it's called Forex Factory. You can search that up on Google or any economic calendar. When IWM starts to rise, with sector small caps would that be? Watch for the best. So it's all semiconductors. So for the IWM, it's basically, it tracks all the small caps. So a lot of the small caps will start to heat up once the IWM gravitates higher. So it's basically just another ETF. It's like SMH, right? QQQ, SPY, right? YM. All these ones are just ETFs. So you can search up like what is a basket and what's within the IWM. But generally speaking, all semiconductors are going to start to rise when at least the major ones that are part of the IWM are going to start to rise in the whole technically sector once the IWM starts to push up. Why don't you use volume? I use volume as well. It's not my main confluence I use, but I do use volume and I'll have it on another chart, but that's not the main thing I'll use. I'll use it as a confluence. Having a problem with scaling out, sometimes I exit early and the stock is a big move, and other times I set my target a bit high and I just get out break even. I'm doing stock right. Depending on the market conditions, maybe you're going to scale less at high day, or maybe you're going to scale more aggressive if right if we're in a range. If we're in trending markets, maybe you can leave some trailers. That's where the discretionary part comes in. But generally speaking, the way you manage your position is going to be fairly similar to how you do it normally. Okay, Gap, Question Broker, Interactive Brokers, any broker that's regulated. If you use prop firms, there's a bunch of prop firms out there as well. You can do your own research on that. Alrighty. So it's better not touch stocks at the first 10 to 15 minutes after earnings. Yeah, you're just going to wait for an IV flush. Either way, the IV is going to be cooled off anyways, just because we're going to open up fairly flat. So normally you want to wait for the IV to cool off. In this case, the IV is just going to get crushed. There's not really going to be a cool off period. It's just going to immediately just drop right off the bat within the first few minutes. All right. That is going to be it for me today. I'm going to get ready for market open here now. I have my watch list already laid out. You guys can rewind that if you want to see. Also, if you guys want to join the watch list, the free watch list in the morning, that basically just a mini recap of what I talked about here in the pre-market as well. So I'm going to call it a day. If you guys did enjoy that, appreciate if you guys drop me a like and sub, and I will see you guys all tomorrow morning. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Peace.